So welcome to this video, everyone. I will show you the answers for previous videos exercises. And I made a separate video because I had few things to add for people who wants to get deeper into all of this. So here are the answers. And first, let's see about yo, ne, or nothing. First, you might wonder why there is no yo or ne at the end of the first sentence. So, of course, it's not the point of this exercise, but you can still wonder. Actually, it could be everything. You could translate any way you want because you don't have any context here. You don't know how the speaker wants to convey what he says. You don't know what the listener knows and what he doesn't know. You have no idea of the situation and you don't know the speaker's point of view either, like how he considers things. And all of that is part of the context and matters a lot in Japanese. So you just can't tell if you should use yo or ne or nothing. So maybe the most important thing to understand is that Japanese grammar is based on context a lot. Like half of its grammar is grounded on context, and usually when you learn Japanese through textbooks or anything else, they don't really explain it because all the grammar that is based on context is the most difficult part of Japanese. But I think it's better to at least know that context matters so much in Japanese, just so that you have it in mind, you see. But okay, let's go back to the yo particle, because with the give some new information explanation, you might be confused. For example, you might then wonder why you have no yo after hashi ga nai. So first, hashi ga nai ne would be completely possible if you assume that the listener already knows, that he's already realized that there were no chopsticks, and you want to share this observation with him and possibly see what he thinks about it. So, of course, since ne is about sharing, you can use it if the listener doesn't know or can't relate. But then, hashi ga nai yo is not necessary here. You just want to make a pure observation, almost like you were talking alone. You don't particularly want to teach the listener that there are no chopsticks, and you don't want to sound like you're teaching him. So you could still use yo, but the tone would be quite different. For example, you realize there are no chopsticks and you're very surprised and you assume the speaker hasn't realized yet. So you say, hey, look, you don't know yet, but I'm telling you there are no chopsticks. And for example, we could totally imagine a kid say that. Like, Mama, hashi ga nai yo. Something like that. So you see that once again, it totally depends on the context and how you want to convey information. But so the rule would be that if you just want to make an observation, a pure statement, not directly involving the listener, most of the time you won't use yo, because what you want to do is not teaching your friend about this. You just want to make a statement, and that's it. On the opposite, the listener, the person that then answers aru yo, uses yo, because she is saying this to correct what the speakers just said. She says it with this purpose in mind. This is how she wants to convey this information. So the other person doesn't look like he knows there are chopsticks. So he wanted to teach him that. Yes, there are. And this is why yo is often used to correct someone. It kind of means you are wrong because you're missing some information. I know the truth, and here is the truth. There are chopsticks. So when you use this particle, you feel like you are bringing a totally new fact or a truth to someone. And most important thing, this is what you want to do. This is the way you want to convey what you're going to say. You feel like and you want to sound like you are bringing a new fact or a truth to the listener. And you want him to listen to you Your words matter, and the listeners better take them into consideration because it's the truth, and he doesn't know about it. And this is why it's the opposite of ne. So basically, ask yourself this question. Do you think that the listener doesn't know about it and you want to directly teach him and to sound like you're teaching him? Or do you just want to make a simple statement? And by the way, using you can then sometimes give a I know better than you vibe. You see, you sound a bit arrogant or you're just being pushy, like forcing things a bit little. And the third sentence might be a good example for this, even if it's not like in the negative way. Because what's interesting is that you have two you. She or he's like, hey, I'm telling you, you didn't know, but I like you. And yes, get it in your head, it's true. So we feel that the speaker really wants her to understand he likes her too. And he's kind of being pushy on purpose. We also understand that the listener had no clue that he was into her. But then be careful, because if you use you too much and in the wrong situations, then you might sound a little pushy or cocky or just weird when you don't want to be. Another example in the previous page is Chichi ga taihen da. And in this sentence, I bet that you don't understand why we don't use you, because clearly it's some new information. The listener didn't know until then that his father was in trouble, but he doesn't want to convey this information as if he was teaching him or to kind of get it through his head. He just wants to tell him by making a pure statement, and that's it. And once again, almost feels like he speaks alone. For the next sentence, he uses ne, iku shikanai ne, to show consideration and empathy to the listener, to be soft to him and like half looking for an obvious confirmation from him, you see? With you, if he'd said, iku shikanai yo, he wouldn't have shown any empathy or consideration to the listener. It would have been like, I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm telling you I'm going and that's it. So of course, he would have left him even if he used ne, but it's like basic politeness, you see? But, well, be careful because I'm exaggerating, and if you're with a friend and you use you, it doesn't necessarily mean you're being rude and heartless to him. Like, for example, you're just panicking because you've got some bad news, and so you use you to give that emergency vibe. You're going and that's it because it's urgent, you see? So doesn't mean that you're being rude. You see, with my explanation, it sounds like you is aggressive, but no, it's just that you know what you say and you want to teach the listener. Because on the opposite, when you use ne here, you don't really feel the emergency, you see? Iku shikanai ne, like it feels, then I have to go, right? You see, you don't feel the emergency. But if you use yo, you feel the emergency much more. Iku shikanai yo. And once again, if it just said iku shikanai, then just pure statement that doesn't really involve the listener. So I hope that with this explanation it's become easier to understand when to use you and when not to use it. Same for ne, because if you just think of you as giving some new information, that it could actually apply to almost every sentence. So it's a bit more subtle than this. By the way, of course, you have many different ways and situations where you can use you. We didn't cover everything, far from it in that video. Of course, every time it's grounded on what we've said, but don't be surprised if you encounter some new and you don't quite understand what it's used in this situation, because it's like 50 shades of you see. So I know it's very complicated to understand at the beginning. I'm making this video for people who like to get deeper into things. But if you just want to learn the basics of Japanese, because like that's what we should be doing, right? Since it's beginner level, then don't care about all of this. Just kind of understand and remember the general difference between you and ne, and it will be completely fine. Though, if you're really interested in you and ne and all of this, there is a wonderful video from Japanese Amo with Misa. And I think that if you watch first my video here, then her video, you will actually start to really get it. So I really recommend that you watch this video, not right now if you need some time to process all of this, but watch it at some point, and at the end of her video, I think you will be like, okay, I'm starting to get it. And by the way, her video covers more than yo and ne. She also talks about yone, etc. You don't know about it for the moment, so don't watch it for the moment, okay? We'll see it at some point, and you can watch like the end of her video like another day. By the way, all these like context grammar things, I don't think you can understand them with mere explanation only. This is the kind of thing that you will understand and assimilate by reading and listening to a lot of Japanese. Like, it's not conjugation that you have to learn by heart. It's not so easy. You will have to read and to listen to a lot of Japanese to actually get it. So my recommendation would be, like, don't torture yourself so much with like pure explanation, like with this video, for example. But whenever you read Japanese and you encounter these two particles, yo and ne, ask yourself why they are used in this situation. Maybe you won't even have the answer, but whatever. Because what you will do is that you will kind of activate your brain. If you don't pay attention to the particles, even if you bump into them all the time, your brain will just like dismiss it and you won't make any progress. But if you stop whenever you see them used, then your brain will understand that this is important, and you will see that little by little, you will kind of assimilate how it works. And it will just come naturally. At some point, you will make sentences and automatically you will choose yo or ne, and it will be correct because your brain will have been fed with thousands of examples, you see. It's just like AI actually. And of course, it also works with the difference between wa and ga, for example, and most of the things that are based on context and then hard to just learn by heart. Then next, des or da. For all the sentences of this exercise, I put da between brackets, as if you could always just transform des into da or omit it and it wouldn't make any difference. Actually, there are some sentences where you should omit da, some sentences where maybe you should keep it, but honestly, do not care, okay? So I've already destroyed your brain with this yo and ne thing, so this that thing honestly is completely useless for the moment. Just know that when you want to be casual, either you transform des into da, either you omit it, and you'll see later how it kinda works. You'll see. Don't care about that for the moment. And that's all I had to say. Then, last part. Tricky wa and also ga. So you might have wondered why sometimes I use wa, while sometimes I use ga. So we will study it, but once again, it's a 100% context grammar thing, so ignore it for the moment. Don't worry, okay? We'll study it, but for the moment, don't worry, don't think about it. Then the second exercise about the tricky wa. So you might be surprised first that you can translate wa by in, for example. But it's completely possible, and in the kaimono wa tonari machi ni iku sentence from the movie, we translated it by for. So wa is used, as we saw, to add a contrast effect. But in English, since you have nothing to use to make a contrast effect, like it's not, you have nothing that automatically adds a contrast effect, it then means that you have many different ways to make contrast, and so many different ways to translate wa depending on the situation. And the first sentence might be the most complicated one to translate because the as for, concerning, tip is not so good here. But you see that autumn or summer is not the subject Of course, it's not the autumn or the summer that is red or green. It's the leaves that are in the previous sentence. So the seasons are just here to indicate the theme with a contrast effect. As for autumn, the leaves are red, and as for summer, they're green. For the next sentence, I hope that you didn't fall into the trap. Be careful, always watch particles carefully, because you have a ga after the mouse. So it is the subject and nothing else. So it is the mouse that is eating. Literally, concerning the cat, or as for the cat, the mouse ate it. So, well, of course, you wouldn't have this kind of sentence in reality, but maybe in a story for kids. And so, neko, of course, is not the subject, since you already have Nezumi. And if you didn't have this contrast effect, you would have oh. It is an object, actually. Who was eaten? Well, the cat. So, Nezumi ga neko o tabemashita. Same sentence, but without the contrast effect. So, the mouse ate the cat. For the last sentence, it's kind of the same. As for this turn, temples are numerous, like literally. Actually, this pattern, wa ga des, is something that we study because it's like a pattern in itself, a grammar thing in itself. So we'll study it later. But still, if you understand wa, then you can more or less understand what it means. So as for this tone, temples are numerous. So in this tone, there are lots of temples. And so that's it. I hope that it helped making this video and kind of explaining once again about all this thing about yo and ne, because it's kind of difficult. But once again, don't think too much about it. So good luck and see you in the next video.